Welcome to this week's episode of Music in the Minor League. We have no guest this week, so we are going to sit down and talk about touring. A couple weeks ago, The Guardian put out an article called "The Working Class Can't Afford It: The Shocking Truth About the Money Bands Make on Tour." You hear a lot about these large bands, people like Bruce Springsteen, Taylor Swift, people like that doing all the dynamic pricing, taking all the money they can from their fans and kind of, making a bad name for a lot of touring artists. But then we want to talk about what it's like for the people in the working class bands, people who are out holding day jobs so they can continue to tour, the bands that are just barely making it on playing music alone. It was really a great read. It did focus on Europe, but it really translates very well over to exact things that are happening in the U.S. The only real difference is Britain or the U.K. does have public subsidies set up to help a lot of musicians, to help arts like grants and things like that, which we really severely lack here in the U.S. So you're kind of left on your own. But we sat down and talked about it. We went through old stories, kind of got off topic a few times, just telling stories about bands we were in, things that happened on the road, anecdotes to kind of tell what touring's like, not just the financial part, but what it's like being out on the road, things that make it easier. It was a good conversation, man. A lot of us, Health has spent a lot of time. He's been in some bands that were on record labels, so he talked a little bit about that. We talked about how booking goes, really just covered the whole situation, how merch helps, how it's gotten harder as there's been contraction in venues, so it's made it harder on people to find shows, to hit a lot of cities, because all those small tier or mid-tier venues are suddenly getting filled by bands that are larger than would normally play there before the pandemic. We're also slightly touch on the fact that a lot of the real estate market's gotten ridiculous. Venture capitalists moving in, buying up a bunch of properties, buying up commercial properties, driving out the venue owners that were there by double, tripling, quadrupling rent prices. We've had that happen here with venues like JP's Hops House and other places. Just things that happen where people get run out by people who don't understand what's happening at these businesses. You're seeing venues all around the country that have been there 40, 50, 60 years being shut down because rent just suddenly got ridiculous at a time when everyone's financially struggling. So we cover a lot of that, man. We hope you enjoy the episode. It's going to be a good one. Before we get to it, though, we got a little bit of housekeeping to get out of the way. The first thing is, if you like the podcast, tell some friends. We'd love to spread the word. Listenership has been kind of dropping in recent months, and we think it's really just because of the space out and everything. We took that break between season 1 and season 2. It really did kind of hit the numbers. So please tell some friends. If you haven't done it since the new season started, we're pretty far in. This is episode 42. So we've got a bunch coming out, not very far from our 50th episode. So get the word out, man. We really appreciate it. Next thing is, we got some shows coming up. We got a couple of things in Texas, and then we're hitting the road. So here's what we got coming up. Then on the other side of that, we'll head to the episode. First off, this weekend on May 17th on Friday, we'll be at Natchez Brewing Company in Port Neches, Texas. That'll be Kim's first hometown show. That show starts at 8. We're playing 3 sets until 11. On Saturday, we'll be at Saloon Door Brewing for the Sargent Records benefit. That's Scotty Frazier, who was a season 1 guest. Him and his wife run Sargent Records, which is where he puts out his record. It was also a charity for veteran families and also even people who aren't veterans. They just did a huge diaper drive to help people who needed help with their children. They did formula and all sorts of stuff. It was a great thing. They did some fundraiser shows around town, and this is their Freedom Fest 2024, which is where they get people together. A lot of musicians who were veterans and a lot of us who were just willing to help, man, raise some money and raise some awareness to help out these families and help out the people who need help in the community, man. It's a big thing. It's a great way to help. And that's it. I've said help like 38 times because it's important to use your art to help people. All right. Then in June, we're going to hit the road. We got a few dates on our own. And then we meet up with Grifters and Shills for a week or so. Let's get to those dates. On June 7th, we'll be at the 806 in Amarillo. That starts at 9 o'clock. On June 8th, we'll be at the Crafty Canary Brewing in Walsenburg, Colorado. That's a 6 p.m. start. On June 9th, we'll be at the Forge Public House in Fort Collins at a 4 p.m. start on that one. We're playing Sin and Sunday with Brian and Sugar Britches, which you heard one of our early episodes. Great band. We're really excited to finally play with him. Next up, Roughed Up Duck in Laramie. That's on June 10th. We'll be meeting up with Grifters and Shills that day. That also includes Luke Hendrickson on that show. On June 12th, we'll be at the Red Rooster Coffee House in Aberdeen, South Dakota. That's also with Grifters and Shills and a local TBA. That'll be at 6 p.m. On June 14th, we'll be at Cargus Farm House Concerts in Litchfield, Minnesota. That'll be us, Grifters and Shills, and Jenna Goman, who you heard earlier in the season. Next up on June 15th, we'll be at Nordic Brew Pub in Monticello, Minnesota. It's just going to be us and Grifters and Shills. On June 16th, it'll be at Gaslight Gardens in Florence, Kansas. Another show, it's just us and Grifters and Shills. Shills. On June 17th, we'll be playing a set either before or after the open mic at Kirby's Beer Store. So we'll put 8 p.m. start there. That's in Wichita, Kansas. Kirby's is always great, so we know we're going to see some friendly faces there, and we're really looking forward to it. The final show of that tour will be in Norman, Oklahoma on June 18th at Beer is Good Brewing. Again, it's us and Grifters and Shills. That one starts at 7 p.m. We'd love to have you come hang. We know it's a Tuesday night, but go ahead. It's early. It's over by 9:30. Be a good night. Then, to close it all out for the month of June, we'll be at Ronnie's Ice House. That's a Locals Fest show we're doing. It's going to be us, Grifters and Shills, Two Fists, Jim Williams, Tucker Hart, Scotty Frazier, and Tequache with one out-of-towner, and that's going to be the March Divide, which you heard earlier this season, Mr. Jared Putnam. And that really does it all for the recent shows. We're going to add in one quick thing. We are on August 3rd playing a show with Brent Best from Slobberbone at the Old Quarter. Tickets are moving fast. It's going to be a great show. We recommend y'all check that out. We're really excited for that one. And then later in August, we're going to be hitting the Northeast, but those dates will come at a far later date. So for now, thanks for listening to all our spiel. And here comes the episode. We're going to break it up real quick. We're going to run through our song Better Off Going, because, man, you always feel that way when you're on the road. There's nothing better than being and going from home and seeing the world, man, and just really enjoying going out there and playing music and meeting new folks and just sharing time with people who love music, man. So we hope y'all dig it, and we'll see y'all in the real near future, man. Later.
Town, it knows exactly where we've been. Street corner reminders of all our conquests and our sins. Now the storefronts, they all sit empty and decayed, while our memories, they rest here just the same. 'Cause these streets are filled with ghosts left alone. You know, I think we'd be better off gone. Let these wheels turn, the horizon will be our home. You know, I think we'd be better off gone. Better off gone. Better off they got us living in the dark. I know there's a lot out there, we just gotta find the spark. There's no future when we're dwelling in the past. There's a world out there, let's go and make our path. 'Cause these streets are filled with ghosts left alone. You know, I think we'd be better off gone.
All right, y'all, welcome to this week's episode of Music in the Minor League. Today we are talking about touring. Our guest canceled, and we figured we would take this time to sit down and discuss an article that has been making it around like the music world this week from The Guardian. It's talking about the working class can't afford it, the shocking truth about the money bands make on tour. So we figured we would talk about our experiences with touring, how we do it, how we make money to do it, and, you know, the fun that comes with it, especially as from the date of recording, we're exactly 1 month from hitting the road for a couple weeks. So here we go.
In case you can't tell, we do like to be on the road. It is fun. Not every aspect of being on the road is fun, but we do like to get out there.
Right. Nothing's more fun than when you get a text from your band and you have to do homework and read a story.
Right. You know, we'd already read it, so we're like, Help can do it. He's a teacher. He can read.
But I teach art, man, so reading's not a fundamental I'm good at.
So the first time, I just heard you guys discuss politics for like an hour. I think you're pretty well read.
Oh, yeah, it's BuzzFeed articles.
Yeah, we don't talk politics ever.
No, it was a good read, man. Although I had to convert pounds into American dollars. That was a little odd.
Did too.
Okay, cool. I wasn't just the only jackass doing that.
No.
It's even more depressing in US dollars.
It is.
What these bands, their losses are coming back from tour. And I think that's the funny part. I think it talks about it from the very beginning. People think that, you know, the band that's playing a sold out show at like White Oak in Houston is making tons of money at that show. And it's like, well, no, you're not. You know, just all of your fees associated with every part of it. Like, no one realizes how much of that pie gets taken up before you ever get any money.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's like, it's one of those luxuries that the viewer doesn't have to deal with. You know, they don't realize, like, if every member has a guest list, right? You're basically taking money out of your own paycheck for that guest list.
Oh, yeah, but, you know, if you want press and things like that, you have to provide guest list spots and all this for people who may or may not write a review or may not put photos up.
May not even show up.
Right, yeah, you have all these. And a lot of times you have to do an actual ticket buy ahead of time. Back when I did music press, it wasn't rare to get a ticket. Normally, you had two types of tickets. You get the ones that were comped on the house by the venue. Usually that was a general admission show, and it would just show like zero cost. But there were shows we went to where there, you know, the price of the ticket was on there, and like the record label itself would do a ticket buy from their own show.
Wow.
To provide to press. So it is kind of wild how that comes in. And that's before you even get to the show happening.
Right.
You know, you get there, you've got to pay, you know, there's facility fees normally. A lot of times you may not, depending on how big you are. We're talking about mid-tier bands, even like lower level, like even in our world, you know, you got to pay for sound.
Yep.
Once you reach a certain level, I'm guessing it's due to union stuff. You're not even allowed to do your own like setup on stage. You have to hire people to come out and set up your instruments for you. Yep. So I have friends who've opened for bands on the road, like larger bands, and they're like, you have to hire a road crew.
Yep.
You can help them. You can be like, oh, I only like my amp set up by me, but you have to have at least like 2 road crew members to be able to tour on that tour.
Wow.
So you're like, cool, well, there's that. If you have a bus, not only do you have to pay for fuel in the bus, you also have to pay for a hotel room for the driver because union says they have to sleep a certain amount of time, not on the bus.
Yeah, I have a buddy who's a tour bus driver for bands. And yeah, like his job is, I mean, and that's the thing too, is people I don't think realize, like, for the tour bus driver, it's a lot of work they have to do.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They're up hours before the band's up and ready to go, and they don't go to bed till well after the band's already, you know, taken care of. So it's like this whole thing, and then on top of that, as a band, you know, when you finish a tour, you got to tip out your bus driver. They always do. I mean, it's standard practice, you know. So I mean, it's like there's, and I'm not saying you shouldn't tip it. Don't get me. I'm not complaining about.
But you should, and you should. You know, I mean, I realized the way I was saying about the union thing. I'm not saying that as a bad thing at all. You need that because you don't want a bus driver who's been up for like 3 days driving your band around in a bus.
Hell no.
You know, ask Metallica how things go when you have a bad bus driver.
Alien Ant Farm.
Right, yeah.
You know, I mean, it can go sideways. And it's the same thing with your crew. You want people that are going to take care, quality people. That I remember we used to play this venue, and I think they were like, I'm gonna help the local homeless people by like hiring them for the night too. But the problem is, man, is like that dude doesn't know that amp in that container is like a few grand. He just sees it as a container. I'm told to move it here to here. Right. He doesn't realize that if you take a tube amp right off its, turn it off and put it in the case and throw a top on it, you could blow out a tube easily.
Yeah, you just hold all that heat in.
So the union guy at least is well versed in that and has, the background to be doing it. But yeah, it's like there's all these hidden costs that people never even think about.
Right. And let me just say, I felt like when I read this article the first time, the thing that jumped out at me was like the quote where they're interviewing the guy who's in a management firm. He specifically says, like, people who work at labels think that the bands make a ton of money off the other side of music.
Right.
And the other side of music think that the bands make a ton of money off the label side of music. And the truth is, the bands are paying for everything.
Yeah, it comes out of their pocket.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, when the Grizzly Band was on our label, like, what was crazy is, so we had an album, we made it, the label was like, cool, we'll put it out, like, but we had to pay for the first 1,000 run.
Right.
And so we paid for the first 1,000 run, and then it goes to the label, and they send them to us in blocks as we need them. And we had to send the money back to the label, and they would write us a quarterly check. And for, let's say, I think it was like a 90-10 split. So if the album cost $10, we got $1 for every album. And we made those albums. Mm-hmm. Like, those 1,000 came out of our bank account. It's the craziest thing. And now, after that 1,000's gone through, they pay in perpetuity for all of them to be made reissued again. But it was like really insulting because you'd make money selling your records, and then you had to send all that money to the label for them to send you back your little check.
Your tiny.
Yeah, and it was just like, what? We made it. Look at us, right, Mom.
Did we?
Here? Yeah.
Did we make it?
And of course, like, the Grizzly Band was notorious for having bad luck. So of course we get signed to the label. And part of the deal was like, before your album comes out, we'll have marketing and advertising campaign set up and all that stuff. Yeah, we get signed and we contact that company and like, hey, the label owes us like a lot of money, so we're not helping them anymore. So of course we got no support there. It was such a bummer.
Oh man, that's where you're like, well, we got nothing in return if you're not.
Yeah, well, then our label, I remember when they put out the album, the label mislabeled it and put it under the metal genre. So like it would show up only if you were looking for, like Slayer.
Is that how I ended up doing like Rocklahoma and stuff like that?
So I think that's how that came out.
Metal band, we'll get them. It's like, this isn't metal.
I mean, they're good, but they're not metal.
Oh God, that's great. Yeah, see, I figured you'd have some interesting stuff about that, especially with your old bands doing touring and stuff.
Yeah, Elf's actually been on a label.
Yeah.
And with a full band too, because like that's the reason full bands I was in, we would do some like local touring, but it was never going far. Even when we did it, it'd be like just the two principal songwriters would be like, all right, we're going out and doing an acoustic tour because we can't afford to bring 8 guys on the road. And, even if we were fortunate enough to know someone in a town, it wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna bring like 8 of my friends to sleep in your living room. It was always like, yeah, man, we got like room for 2 dudes. Or
that I think that was the crazy part too. Like when touring happened, like it was funny. We did a tour for the label, and we never got money. But what was kind of cool is we got to one of the destinations, and there was this box, and in the box was a run of shirts for us that they made, and so that was cool. They didn't give us money, but we had a box of Grizzly Band shirts that we could sell, and all the money just went to us. We had no say in the design, though. It was the funniest thing. Like, that's where, if anyone has the Grizzly Band t-shirt, where it's like the little rat rodster, like those came from the label. We showed up like, here's your box, and it was like that. And there was some people have them. It's a patch, a Grizzly Band patch that looks like the Chevy logo.
Yeah,
we had no say in any of that.
You do.
Yeah, it just showed up one day.
That's interesting.
But yeah, I mean, that's stuff that, label support helps with stuff like that.
It does. And I think, you can't bash on the labels because the label does open doors for you. Like we were able to play better shows and do things like Rocklahoma and stuff like that because, we weren't some band off the street. We had some credibility. So there's that payoff. But
question though, did you ever really make any money off of those shows besides the merch that you got from the label that you didn't have to pay for?
I mean, we had better guarantees, but again, you've got a band of 5 dudes.
Right.
And it's like, it's not cheap. You're not able to stay on people's couches because you're going to have to get a hotel room. Yeah. And we stayed in some sketchy spots, I'll be really honest with you. But you're touring in a van. we tried not to carry a trailer as much as possible, but then you're crammed into the first 2 rows of a 15-passenger van, and that gets just just not ideal.
So close.
Yeah, you do. You get real close real fast, and sleeping in the parking lot of airports is not ideal in that scenario. So yeah, it's like you never really make money, but we were always fortunate. We were never truly deep in the hole either.
Yeah.
Like we tried to be as smart as possible and frugal where we could be. But yeah, man, like it blew me away. Like when these bands in this article talk about coming back with like knowing going in before you've even left, we're anticipating at least a $2,000 to $3,000 deficit.
Right.
Like that's just crazy to me.
Yeah,
Like,
'cause especially like the one that was doing like the 9-member band, but it's like we can't do the show. People aren't going to come see us stripped down. Like we have to. It'd be like going to see James Brown. It's like, yeah, dude, we bought like a 3-piece backing band. Like, and it's like, what the hell is this?
see, at least people like Chuck Berry were smart. Like he would just he'd send out the music, on the tour to different members.
Hire his band.
And like he's like, this is my hired band for the night.
Yeah.
So it's literally just him touring, and that's cool. But yeah, for a band, you can't just do that. Part of that experience is that band, and so like you have to anticipate the entire group being on the road, and it's just expensive. I mean, think about just food in general. If you're lucky and you're staying in a hotel, you might get a continental breakfast, and as we have all found out, continental breakfast means different things to different hotels.
Oh, yeah.
In different parts of America.
I don't know what continent they're talking about, but there's not a lot.
Right. Like some of them can literally be like a stale muffin and a couple of like rotten bananas.
But then we've hit some that are the jackpot,
they're
dude.
just like eggs, potatoes, the whole nine.
And the sweet waffle maker and stuff,
Sometimes.
Although, funny story about the waffle maker. You know how some of them have like the big container of waffle mix and it has like the spigot on the bottom? So we were at a hotel last weekend, and one of the kids with us broke the spigot off by accident.
God.
So it just starts dropping like gallons of this, mix. And the kid's trying to be nice, like getting cups and putting it in cups. And I'm like having this I Love Lucy like flashback. Like,
right.
Oh my God. Like somebody stop it. Like I almost thought about just putting my thumb in it and stopping it.
Yeah, just like make it stop.
Yeah, it was just, but yeah, I mean, so it's like if you get lucky and have that, all right, that's one meal taken care of. But then you still got to eat lunch, and then there's some kind of dinner, and I think a lot of people think, well, doesn't the venue like supply you? No. Like we're not talking about bands on that level that have catering.
And even it's like they talk about like stand-up comedians talk about, you don't get the good food on the menu. If you go, it's like, hey man, you can have like an order of like cheese sticks or like some chicken nuggets and fries. Like that's it. There's been many places where it's like, yeah, and you get a free meal, and you show up and it's like, all right, dude, like you get $5. We're like, what?
Yeah.
Here's a chicken nugget. And we're talking like the ones where you break them open and the chicken meat's like brown.
See, if the guarantee was like your free meal was like Italian nachos, we might be onto something.
It's different. It's different on the road, y'all.
Be the opposite.
Every once in a while there is that gem of a place, but it's very rare.
Yeah.
That will give you some good food.
Yeah, and nothing to not to discredit the venue, because I mean they're not in the business of feeding people,
right?
No.
They're usually just bars anyway.
Yeah, so I mean I get it, but like just food cost a day. I mean you could say $20 easy.
Well, and to think about just since COVID, how much food has gone up, and yet none of the guarantees are going up.
No.
None of the stuff that we make on the road is going up. Our pay is not going up.
No, and if you try to raise your prices of merch to kind of offset that cost, you're not selling merch. You're going from selling maybe 5 shirts tonight to selling maybe 1.
Yeah, I mean, really, with ours, like this new record, just due to the pressing costs, we went from 20 to 25, and we went from pretty much selling out half of the run before we ever released it with the last record to maybe a quarter.
Yeah.
And even that, but also, all of the, you can call it inflation, but all the corporate price gouging and everything that's going on right now, like, people don't make it out to shows like they used to. People can't afford to go out and have a bar tab and pay for the show. And if they do, they're saving up all their money to go see one big ticket band.
Right.
At like, the Toyota Center. Or,
well, and I think the thing too that we were talking about with Micah and Vanessa when we talked with them was the fact that used to be you could book this 200 capacity venue. But now upper level bands are having to scale down their size venues to that size.
Oh yeah.
So that's bumping you down to an even smaller room, So it's cutting into all of that. You know, so it's like it's like right now the alignment of bands is off. Like they're not sitting where they used to, so we're all trying to scrap for the same shows, and it's not working. I mean,
yeah, you can't fault the venue for being like, again, like I said then, you know, like what was it like Whitewater Tarot Time? We want to John Doe and Tommy Stinson want to come play here.
Yeah,
y'all. And it's like, oh yeah, not that we've played there before, but we have other friends and some other bands that play there, and it's like, yeah, it just doesn't really pop up anymore.
No,
yeah, I mean, even like look at like a lot of the old quarter stuff. If somebody reaches out like Ray Wiley Hubbard or something, it's like, well, they're not gonna be like, oh yeah, never mind, I said no to him so a local band could play. And so you have all these people who could be doing way bigger shows or used to be doing way bigger shows playing pretty small venues.
Yeah.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, in the history of American music, it's a big freaking country, and it's never been economical to take an entire band on tour.
No.
Never.
No, prior to COVID, I think you could do it. Like we were able to.
We weren't making money though.
Huh?
We weren't making money even before COVID though.
Yeah.
A lot of people were not.
But I think now the cost of fuel since pre-COVID as opposed to now, you know, we're now getting used to basically $2.50 to $3 a gallon. Like that's where we're sitting now, and
that's just here.
Yeah, that's not going. It's not. I think $2.50 is going to be the lowest we're going to see ever again in our lifetime. Like I don't think it's going to go below $3 in a couple of years. So I mean that's already cutting into your costs. You know, we were touring in a diesel van. So we were getting better gas mileage than our compatriots in a regular V8, but still, I mean, diesel used to be cheaper than gas.
Yeah, now it's through the roof.
And now it's like, and it's funny because about the time my dad bought a diesel is when it flipped. I was like, so it's kind of like the Helfenstein curse. No offense. Sorry, America, we screwed it up for you.
Nah, but I remember touring in 2014 or 2013 was the year, like, gas was over $4 in some places.
Yeah, see, the first time I ever toured California was like in early 2000s in my old band, and Abasia, if you want to look it up.
Spell it for us.
Abasia. But I remember we were getting ready to go from Houston to LA, and people were like, "Oh man, it's like $3 or $4 a gallon in California," and that was crazy. Like we're like, that's I can't do that. And now it's like, well, that's kind of the norm now. We're sitting at that price, pretty close.
In Texas, yeah,
and in Texas where we make it,
right?
You know, we're at the tap, and we're not even getting a deal on it. You know, we get all the environmental impact, but no like pocket relief.
Payback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude. So yeah, I mean, you're looking at costs now that just out the gate, you have to look like hell. We're talking about our tour. I mean, we can anticipate what our fuel cost is going to be, and the way we tour is pretty compact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's
shout out to Kia.
Yeah, because if we're like driving a car, that was our thing. We're driving like 32 miles per gallon, so it's like it helps a lot. When you're in a van, you're talking like 14 to.
Dude, we were looking like. I think on our best day, fully loaded, we got like 16 miles to the gallon.
Yeah, and I mean, that's because you're adding in all that. Especially if you have a trailer, then it's slow. It makes it even worse. Yeah. And even if we're up in the mountains, we're still getting like 27.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Like, that's a bunch of days like, oh, man, we're doing terrible. We only got like 27 and a half miles per gallon on that tank. But I think that's why you're seeing like a lot of people like, John Moreland doing solo gigs and stuff. Yep. Like, even when he's just doing duo stuff for people to do bands, like, it's just like, man, me by myself, I can do this.
Yeah.
And then you have people, like all sorts of people doing like, oh, we're doing their stripped down acoustic tour. It's like, no, that's what they can afford to do.
Right, exactly. I mean, and that's where we're at. And so it's like, I see the inevitability, like that people, like that whole idea that doing this as a hobbyist, it's eventually going to go away. Eventually, you're going to have to be committed to being able to afford to do this, because the weekend warrior, as so to speak, is not going to be able to do this. Not in tour. You'll be able to play your local shows in your region, like a day's drive kind of situation. But as far as like being able to go up the East Coast and do dates, I don't see how you can do it anymore.
Well, really, I think I kind of believe the opposite. I think there will be people who can do it, like that are full-time bands, but it's going to be the people who have day jobs that are still going to be able to do like we go on tour twice a year because we're able to. I mean, the real reason we're able to tour is not even the day jobs. It's the fact that we play local. We do a lot of brewery gigs.
Yeah.
and we do a lot of stuff there where you're playing 3-4 hours to make $300-$400, and then you just keep building that up. It's like, cool, we got like $2,000, we can go for 2 weeks.
Well, and for me, the way it works is I work 187 days a year. The rest of the time I'm off. So, that works really well for touring. And that's why you see a lot of musicians who work full-time are in education because of the time off.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, like, look at Conrad, like Possessed by Paul James, teacher. And, it's like, hey, this summer I'm going to be out on the road, do all this all summer. There's a lot of people that are in teaching. A lot of people who work in the music industry, a lot of people who work doors at bars. I mean, do this, sound men, stuff like that. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to be gone for a few weeks.
Who's our buddy from Kentucky singer-songwriter? What's his name?
Eric Bollinger?
Yeah, he's a teacher. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton that you see that's like, oh, I didn't realize they were a teacher. Or they do something else, like, oh, I work as like a freelance graphic artist or something like that.
Oh, Trish?
Like, yeah, but people who can actually get away. But I know other people that do stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Or just do designs for other bands. Like I design T-shirts and merch for other people so that I can tour and do this. I mean, back in our old days, we used to do like T-shirts and buttons and stuff for bands so we could afford our practice space and to do stuff like that because we weren't making enough money off of our bands.
No one's buying my merch, but they might buy your merch. And if I make it, I get some of that money.
Right. That's one of the things I was talking about. I was talking about how it impacts the hobbyist because I don't know, because like I say, then to kind of walk back on myself, I used to push back on that. Like, it's not a hobby, it's like something. But I mean, it really kind of is. It's like, because you can say a hobby is any sort of second job. Like, my hobby is I go out and, make stuff and sell it at like weekend markets.
Oh, yeah. It's no different than how guys in our age bracket do smoking meats. You know what I mean? They spend a ton of money on making briskets, right? We spend a ton of money on playing music. Different thing, but the payoff is the same. It's something we like to do. We enjoy doing it. We're marginal at it, so why not do it as much as we can?
And we're fortunate in the fact that it's self-sustaining at this point for us.
Yes.
That's one good thing about it. 'Cause, I mean, you can be like, oh, y'all suck anyway if you're listening. That's fine. You don't have to like what we're doing or anything. But the point is that we've reached a point where it sustains itself.
Yeah.
We can tour 3-4 weeks a year. And that's just straight. Like, there's always like, oh, we're this weekend, we're going to go do a 3 or 4 day run.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a big thing, too, is I think we're going to see a lot more bands sticking regionally. Like, this article was in Europe, which is everything's really close, but you got, like, border crossings and a lot of things. Travel gas is
still since England left the Union, or
Brexit and all that.
Brexit, it costs them to go across now, like, a lot more.
Yeah, or it's like it used to be for us. You go into Canada with nothing. Now you have to declare things and pay taxes for every step foot. I mean, we knew a ton of people that try to do European tours or come across that just like, well, it doesn't make any financial sense.
I know only a handful of American bands that are like on our level or a little higher that have been able to do the European thing consistently and make money.
Yeah.
And the one that I know is the band Duel out of Austin.
Okay, yeah.
Jeff, the guitar player who was their producer, he's an amazing guitar player and stuff, but he's a real smart guy in like sense of finance and stuff. He also has a really great recording studio, Red Nova Studios in Austin.
I almost saw him on Saturday, but set up between bands at the Doom Festival were taking forever. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to stay.
Would you say the time doomed it?
Right. I wasn't going to wait for till 1 a.m. for Duel to play. So I was like, well,
they would have melted
Austin,
your face off.
I'll see him. I'll see him eventually.
Yeah, they're a killer band. But yeah, they consistently probably every, I want to say 6 months or so, they'll be over there for like a month or, pretty good amount of time. But they have to do it for like a month. Like I think that's the only way you can make a go at it is you have to have a 4-week run.
Even back in the old days, you used to have to do a month to 6 weeks over there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I just got through reading, like, Barrett Martin's book on his time with the...
I'm really sorry. Just take it away from him.
I'm going to pause it.
So there I was, just blasting.
Now, like what I was saying, Barrett Martin, I just read his book about his time, like Screaming Trees, and other bands too. He played with, he had a world music band thing he did with Peter Buck from REM. Tell you something about, if you go to Europe, you're going like 6 weeks, all the countries.
Yeah.
You got to do it all back to back. It's normally tough. Main thing is like food's different over there, so it's like always weird, like with food. But you got to see a lot of cool stuff. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Another thing they talk about booking, I've heard from multiple bands even to this day, is, a lot of times you get brought in as an opener for a larger band and you end up losing money, you're in the hole of the label, but they think, oh, it's a good idea, we can get you out in front of this band and you can play at 6 p.m. when people are walking in the door instead of headlining your own show in a small venue.
Waiting in the beer line.
Right.
You're playing for exposure.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's just like, in some cases, it's like it doesn't benefit you, but your booking agent's like, no, I can pull 2 commissions off of one show, so why don't we do this?
Right. Well, and that's like, I have never done this, but I know of bands that have done this, like pay to get on a tour.
Oh, yeah.
Like so-and-so.
Ozfest or something like that, yeah.
Well, or even like, insert 90s, early aughts new metal band is coming doing a tour, and they want some young band, and it's like whoever throws in the highest bid gets to be picked up on that tour and do it. And it's like, that's a huge crapshoot, because not all quote unquote big bands from that time frame were worth going to see the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of that money, like, but that's the thing that shows how tough it is for them, even with like probably 1 to 2 radio hits, or at least they're still having to basically milk bands to get money to open for them.
Yeah,
because they can't afford to tour regardless. So
and so that's like another cost thrown in on your tour already. So now you're already in the hole, a couple grand because you threw that to the headline band. So now your cost is even getting worse. Yeah,
it's just hoping you can move enough merch, meet enough people, and do stuff like that.
Well, and then on those types of tours, I guarantee you, the headline band makes you sell your merch at a inflated price that's closer to what theirs is going for.
Oh yeah.
So they don't look the jackass jerk band. Why is your hoodie $50 and the opening band is only $20?
Well, but you still have to do that because the venue's still taking 50% of your.
And see, that's something they didn't talk about in that article, is that that happens in Europe too. Like the venue's like, oh, well, you want to sell these shirts? Oh, that's great. But you're going to give us X percentage of that.
Right.
Which is, again, a thing that's caused by like all these big label artists who are like, well, yeah, we want all of the door and cuts of these things. And it's like, well, if we get you to cut of our alcohol sales, we want to cut of your merch sales.
Right. But no one's saying that the big band's why that happened. Everyone's vilifying the venue.
Yeah. And it's like, well, because the venue's doing it to bands who, they're like, we can get away with it with this band. Why don't we just get away with it with all the bands?
Exactly.
I do highly recommend that if anyone's listening and never heard it, the Your Favorite Band Sucks podcast, the Ticketmaster Sucks.
Ooh, that's a great episode.
Where they break down all of this stuff about how all the costs and how it's all just how most of when you go to a big show, you're getting milked by the artist mostly.
Yeah.
They're doing stuff, and Ticketmaster's just like, we'll be the boogeyman, and we'll be the person who says we're taking all the money because we don't care if we look bad.
Well, and because you have Tyler Coe, whose dad is David Allen Coe, so he played guitar for him for a long time, and so he knows that side of it and saw how the prices go. But then Mark, the other guy on that podcast, was a talent buyer for venues, and so he's seen all that too. Like, and they're not bullshitting you; it's 100% factual. Like these bands, like when they talk about Eddie Vedder and them and the Pearl Jam scenario, it's like they knew it. They were getting paid. They were just trying to act like it wasn't them.
Well, I think at their time they were like, oh, maybe we can do something, but you can't do anything. And they learned quick. So I mean, they were playing like fields out in the Dallas area.
Well, and here's the thing we got to think about. I realize this was like the 90s, but the situation was the same. The artist is still paying for everything. So them getting a little bit of money, and making another company look bad, or letting another company take the fall for that when it doesn't ever reflect on them, or they thought it wouldn't. I mean, they're just trying to make whatever kind of money you can make off of this.
Well, that's what's
weird
kind of sad
system.
about is how little it's changed in like
right.
And it's like
70.
Now that we have transparency, it's like I wish more bands would just be honest about it. Mm-hmm. Just be like, yes, I'm charging you $60 for this ticket because I believe that's what it costs me to put this show on. Okay, then I can make a better decision. But by pitting us against, Ticketmaster and blah blah blah, it's just a waste of time.
Well, a lot of it is the whole the dynamic pricing, things like that. But I think we're kind of getting a little off subject. But I mean, it is something ugly that kind of starts. It's like all this ugly stuff, like most of the things that happen, especially here in the U.S. It's like it all starts with greed at like the upper corporate level, the rich people, like the rich artists and stuff. I mean, you don't get to be a billionaire artist by being like scrupulous. You're usually a bad person who's doing stuff to scrape money and milk your fans for every penny.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, I have friends that opened up for an artist whose name sounds really familiar, like similar to Smimmy Muffet. And they weren't even allowed to play they were the only band on the bill other than Smimmy Muffet. And they weren't allowed to play on the main stage. They had to play the side stage at the Woodlands, okay? Which isn't even in the arena, it's outside. And they weren't allowed to sell any merch.
Yeah.
And they weren't paid, but like for a band of like 7 dudes, like maybe a couple $100. And they had to be there like stupid early.
Oh,
they barely got a sound check, and like the sound guys were pissed off because they were thinking that everything was gonna be on the main stage, and now they got to run sound at a separate stage, so they look like a bunch of assholes, and and it's like that's an artist preying upon a smaller artist, and so now you're adding to that, and that was a local show for those guys, and it still cost them money.
Yeah, well, it's like years ago I did an interview with Bear Jr. with Bobby Bear Jr.
Yeah.
But back when he was still the band Bear Jr. Same deal. They got brought out by Aerosmith because they had the same booking agent. It's like, oh, they'd be great. And as I said, like we're playing these huge venues, but we're also playing these little stages they built right next to one of the bathrooms, and we're setting up playing while people are basically waiting to get in the tickets and walking in and going to concessions, and we're just like the entrance music before people go into the actual
venue,
pavilion or whatever to see the headliner band. And sure enough, we went to the show. I was like, yeah, there's
I feel like a PA is cheaper.
What's up?
I said I feel like a PA is cheaper.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's the good thing with a lot of those bands, because like they played Houston the night before, so like they came in and played back like the Satellite Lounge before they did that, so they were able to actually make a few dollars playing like a headlining show on their off nights. But I mean, you're literally hustling and you're doing these. Oh, it's like the tour's going to take off Tuesdays. Like we got to find a show Tuesday to make gas money so we can keep losing our asses opening for these giant arena rock bands.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know we kind of got off the subject a little bit, but let's talk about how we do touring, how Sam does touring.
I would say we're just along for the ride.
Before we get to one thing I was going to cover, I think the ideal place you want to be is like the Heights Theaters of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like the ones that are like the 500 seat arenas, not arenas, but theaters and things, like the place, because like you go see Sunvolt, like I know that, they have one guitar tech with them, but it's basically the band and one guy. You don't have to hire a road crew.
Right.
You still just hop in a van and go, but you're selling 500 tickets a night.
Right.
You can break even, make some money.
And there's a good chance you're going to sell a decent amount of merch.
Yeah.
But even the people that we know that come, to those level of theaters they're bringing, one person with them.
Yeah.
They're not touring with their whole band.
No,
usually.
The opener is normally a solo person because
Yeah.
it's one extra dude in the van. If it's someone someone who can get there, you don't have to backline 2 bands. You don't have to pay a stage crew, really.
Right.
You come in, you set up your setup yourself.
Oh, yeah.
They may have a few people that work there that run cables and everything. You're paying the sound guy.
Right.
And then you're done, and that's it. You're not having to pay for 20-person road crew, people to run scaffolding.
Right.
So a lot of people don't think about that. Like you're on the hook a lot of the times for the production.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
There's those 18 wheelers pull up with all your stuff. It's not the same dudes in every city either.
Right.
They have a schematic and they come out, because was it Jeremy Mallett that we know from Clear Lake area? Like that's what he does. He goes out and sets up, always posting pictures like sitting up on the scaffolding here at like NRG, setting up for insert giant show.
Yeah, Brian Schoppel does drum tech work like that for touring bands when they come through. Well, I had friends who were signed to Interscope Records, a big label, and they were on a tour being direct support for Chevelle, like right as Chevelle was like taking off. So they were playing venues like Bayou Theater or Invention Center. Yeah. So that's like a 3,000 to 5,000 capacity venue, and they were touring 0 crew. They loaded their stuff on and off stage. I mean, they did it all. And I'll never forget, they were, this is a band that was major label. They already had their first album with them, working on their second album. They were still touring in a van. There were 3 bands on the tour, and I knew which band was my friends because they were in a van. Like everyone else had buses and they pulled up in a van. But it worked out great for them because they were able to save money in that aspect and not be back asswards at the end of the tour, which was good because the way that their recording contract was set up is they had a really, really low touring budget. Like their money from the label was almost nothing, but they had a great recording budget. So when they did their second album for the label, they recorded it at Skywalker Ranch in California. And so they were in these, there were a 4 4-piece band in a giant full orchestra room recording their album, you know, and their albums are amazing albums and it's great. But that was a decision they made, and that's how they could make it work.
Right.
You know, and that's the thing is they had to make sure that the music was the most important thing, and never once did they have, like, they weren't wearing like anything fancy. They didn't play fancy equipment, you know, nothing like that. I remember their stuff got stolen the night before in Dallas. Screw Dallas, by the way. And it got stolen, and the only thing, like, they found like the bass player's like expensive head in the dumpster behind the hotel. Like, because the people just got broken into the van, and the guitar player played all these vintage SG, so they took all that, and like the bass player's like vintage Stingray bass and stuff like that. But everything else, like all the amp heads, they found in like the trash can, you know. And so that sucks because guitars. Luckily, Chevelle's like, no, here's guitars for you guys to use. No big. But if you're a band and that happens and you're on tour, 90% of bands that happens to, that tour's done. They're going home.
Oh yeah.
You know, like, because they know I already started in a hole. Now I'm even further in a hole. There's no way I'm going to get out of this hole. So it's better to close up shop, roll back home, and lick your wounds and try to figure it out for the next time. You know, so I mean, that just tells you the margins on touring are so just ridiculously skewed.
You know, how many people do we know, like Hoot and Holler, stuff like that? Even Four and the Strange band of them, and it was bad luck. Like up in the Pacific Northwest, them and Possessed by Paula James, both of them had their vans break down like the same day.
Oh gosh.
And so it's like, okay, we're both trying to simultaneously like get on like GoFundMe, like please.
Yeah.
Like everything blew out. And it's just, I mean, you don't bounce back from that. It's literally hoping that nothing breaks.
No, and that's when you're like, I remember being with the Grizzly band, and that was the biggest fear, is like if something goes wrong. Like I remember we were in Carbondale, Illinois, and we lost a hub on the trailer. And I'm like, oh shit, we got to get to Chicago. It's not a quick run. And so we had to find first you have to find a place that services trailers. And then you're all paranoid, like, oh shit, are we going to unload all the equipment out of the trailer? Where are we going to put this at?
Yeah.
You know, fortunately for us, they were like, no, we can get on the lift, we can get it fixed. And they got it fixed, and we were able to get on to the next show. But that's a cost that, you know, we weren't expecting. It was like $600.
Right.
So that's out of pocket. But hell, the first night of that tour, we met up with those crosstown rivals in Huntsville, Alabama, right? And so we had a trailer that had a like one of those kind of like it's like a drawbridge kind of tailgate on it. Like, so you have a ramp to go into the back of the trailer.
Yeah.
Which is great until you go to open it the first night of tour, and the recoil spring blows apart, and now you have to lift this giant heavy door by hand every time without the assistance of the recoil spring. Yeah, talk about, like, it sounds like a gunshot went off. Now there's like shrapnel everywhere.
Oh my god.
You know, that cost me out of my pocket when we finally got home over $1,000 to fix.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because it's an under pressure spring. You got to find it, and that was with a hookup from a family friend who has a trailer service company.
Yeah, and seeing that stuff that happens, man. Things go wrong.
Like, people don't realize, like if something like a blowout, we had a blowout one night, you know, and that could have killed us, you know, but that, again, that's a couple $100 in an tire.
Yeah, depending on where you're at.
Yeah, and then you gotta get somewhere. Yeah. You know, you gotta get it towed if you don't have your spare tire. I mean, so there's like all these crazy things, and so when we get to that point of touring, it's like those are all the things that you're concerned about, let alone having a good show.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's why we bring all the spare and the air thing that airs tires up.
Everything.
It's like, do not take a chance.
My favorite was when we were the first tour that we were on. Our merch got stolen. How do you sell merch at shows if you don't have any merch?
Yeah, and that is like a complete loss.
Yeah.
Like there's no insurance for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, luckily they threw it all in.
They didn't like it.
Bushes or something.
Oh, that's nice of them.
And once we were an hour
it.
and a half outside of, well, we were already in Georgia, and this was in Montgomery. We had to go back to Montgomery and pick it up. And then we made it into Charlotte like right about showtime too. It was rough.
Yeah.
But you know, stuff like that happens. You know, battery went out in Boone, North Carolina the next day.
Yep.
Luckily the girl from the hotel drove us to get a new battery. And just stuff like that. And I mean, it's just... And
unfortunately for us, we have day jobs. So we have a little bit of a cushion in those scenarios. But I couldn't imagine I'm a scraping by musician, and if I'm on the road and something goes bad. Like, there is no AAA for musicians like that.
No, there is no emergency fund. Like, bands don't have emergency funds.
Yeah, like your emergency fund is what you use to tour.
Right.
Yeah, it's wild. That's why I've had enough people we've known that some bands, it's just like, what's wrong with you? Like, people are like, oh, someone broke in our van while we were sleeping in the hotel, and they took our cash box, and like who the hell leaves a cash box in a car?
Van?
Dude, we have stayed literally feet from where our car is parked, and we still unload everything out of that.
Oh yeah, we're just not. It can't, because again, that's something that no one's got. Like, oh, I need to go drop $500 on a new guitar while we're on the road.
Or hell, a new window.
Yeah.
Right.
Because was it Charlie Memphis? He was doing that tour with Chris Seymour. And the first night of tour, his window got busted out. And it's like, then he has to spend the rest of the tour worried about that window getting messed with because he couldn't just stop and get it fixed.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
because that's the other thing people don't realize is we have such tight schedules 9 times out of 10 to get to the next venue.
Right. And even if you missed one of the shows, it's like, cool, well, instead of being 5 hours, I'm 10 hours from the next show.
Exactly.
So it's like we're going to miss, there's no catching up.
No.
So, all right. So, real quick, it's been going a while.
Have we? Wow.
So how do we do it? You know, how like low cost, like super low single A indie band does it. First thing we said, man, it's like, and it was something that stuck with me years ago. Saw an interview with Steve Albini where he was talking about that. Like, I'm never not going to have a job.
Right.
He's like, I just don't want it to ever turn into where I have to live off my music just because you don't actually make, you know, good
You can't
decisions.
yeah.
You do things, have that autonomy to do what you want to do. It always made me feel better about the fact that I was always like a safety first kind of person. Like, I'm not gonna
Right.
just take off and be like, whatever happens, happens. Like, this is like, well, no, because I actually want to be able to somewhat enjoy it and create things. I mean, sometimes I wish I had more time to like write songs and things like that. So the first thing is make sure you have something like baseline. 2 is like, yeah, don't get out there broke. That's rule 2 for us is don't leave like, oh, we don't have any money. Like, we do
don't
a
go on tour
lot
then.
of, you know, a lot of local gigs that we're not super excited about a lot of times. You
Well,
know, where it's
and
like, we're going to be playing. It's not even that. It's fun places. Friends come up, but it's like, we're going to play 4 hours tonight.
Right. It's like
never fun.
It's like when I was in the Grizzly Band, we had what they called it the practice space show.
Yeah.
Like each month you had to do this one show. It was at this little dive bar, but it paid really well. And it was enough to cover that month's rent for the practice space.
Yeah.
You know, and you do that because it's steady. It takes care of that off you're not paying that money for that, you know, that expense.
Plus, it helps you tighten up a lot as a
It
band.
does.
But it does reach a point, like, you know, we went to the Helmet show the other night. After standing there just watching a show for 3 hours, it's like, my legs won't bend, like nothing. And it's like,
Back is stiff.
then when you're doing that for 4 hours with a guitar hanging on you and
Then you get to pack up
singing,
everything.
Yeah, then after you're done, you're like, I'm exhausted. It's like, all right, let's break down all the gear.
But
Drive
doing
2 hours home.
Right, but doing that show puts money in the bank so that we're not out money for hotels.
Right.
And that's really it. We leave, we've got stuff booked, we've got enough gas money.
Yeah.
If things go sideways, you're like, just hope it doesn't. But yeah,
I will say, I think that three people is the limit
Yeah.
on the Kia touring.
oh yeah.
Would you say that's the Kia to touring?
But that's another thing too.
Gross.
A big part of it is like, you know, even if we got more full band stuff going around here, we're not taking it on the road.
We can't afford to.
Like, it
yeah.
just doesn't make any sense logistically.
No.
Right.
I mean, even from our entire scene, mostly, man, like what we've kind of fallen into, fortunately, like kind of the people who do the pawn stocks and things like that, there aren't a lot of full bands.
No.
Right.
Like, even the ones that you would call full bands, like even like Pentagram String Band, like they don't have a drummer because there's no room for a drum kit.
No, not with an upright bass.
It's like we all have to live in a van together if it comes down to it. And we don't have room to fit all this stuff in.
How
And
can we
was
do it
very-
logistically?
Yeah, there's very few bands that are able to go like, okay, it's going to be like 6 of us in a band or even a power trio or whatever. It's still like,
Yeah.
you start adding
Like
in
us?
drums and amps and all that. Like, we
Well,
make it happen because,
we don't have amps.
yeah.
Not a
And
power
that's a
trio.
huge thing off the table right there.
And that's a reason, like, you know, outside of just the not really being able to tell a lot of the difference musically, we see a lot of bands touring with like fractals and,
Yep.
you know, using iridiums and things like that because you don't have to bring amps anymore. So there you just freed up like a quarter of your space.
Dude, look at Grifters and Shills.
Yeah, like they're down to not even bringing bass amps anymore. So it's
No.
like we're set. And
It's a
it-
very amp heavy band.
yeah, it's like if you don't have to bring all that, you can bring it down where you can be a full out electric rock band with the same footprint as like a folk band, like acoustic act.
Yeah.
And, you know, drums are the only thing where it's like, ugh.
Yes, just because by and large, there's not an easy way to store them.
Yeah.
Cajon? They
Yeah,
do make
but
the little
Cajon, I mean, you
portables.
still.
It's not the same.
Okay,
I
but
mean,
I'm just saying, like, for
But I mean, people do that.
touring-
People put together, like, you know, like Tara and her
Very
junk
true.
kit.
But see, Terra
She
stuff,
can
it
like
all
fold
that-
down and nothing.
I would say
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it's not a full real drum. Like, you know, it's sound. You listen to it. It's like
If you close your eyes, yeah, you don't even know. Like,
But it's like,
But make it work how you can make it work.
right.
yeah, and it's kind of like that. It just makes it where you're going to see more stripped down tours. You're going to see more regional tours. And like I say, for us, it's mostly what we do. By and large, we do these crazy runs once a year, but we're always going to go to like New Mexico, Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, just because it's close.
Yeah.
And really that's how it should be. As I bring up almost every episode, watched an interview today where they were talking to like Buzz Osborne from the Melvins about the new record, but he was talking about touring. He's like, my thing I tell all baby bands is you take where your city's at, you draw a 600-mile radius around it, and it's like, don't leave that until you make a bunch of money and you're able to just, like, I can go anywhere. Like,
Right.
hit these markets, make things happen. Problem is, in Texas, I mean, there's like Houston, maybe Austin, Dallas, unless you're playing like 90s pop country covers, there's not many venues to play.
No. Well, and Dallas is such a closed off market. They are very, they want to be kind of self-contained.
Yeah, it's just weird. I mean, it's never been a place you can get into.
Yeah, nothing against the band. There's great bands that play Dallas, and they're always nice when they come to Houston, and we have some great friends. But it's very hard for them to even get an out of towner on a bill.
Yeah, I mean, and by and large, people I know that live there are still just like, I have to play like insert. Was it Love and War in Texas, and I gotta go play my 3-hour country cover set where I may throw in one of mine an hour.
Right.
And it just really is just like, cool, that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too, though. I mean, there's times we're on tour where we have to throw in brewery gigs and stuff because it's like, how are we don't have enough, we may not have enough gas money, but this place will pay $300.
Yep.
And to go into the cost, I mean, there's places you play here locally on the road where you got to pay, like, say, sound guy takes $75 off the top, $100 off the top. Oh, you want a door guy too? Cool. That's going to be another like $50. And so, sometimes you're walking some of these venues $75 to like $150 down before anyone's shown up.
Right.
Which is crazy to me, because if you're a venue, that should be part of your operating cost.
Yeah. But it just depends on the place. I mean,
Yeah.
Like, it's just such a weird dynamic that so this person does nothing else other than works the door. No, that guy probably is a bar back some nights or whatever. And it's like, oh, but because I'm the sucker that has to pay the $50, he's a door guy tonight.
I need somebody to take the money at the door, though.
Yeah.
I can't fit another person in the Kia to do that.
Right.
one good thing we're starting to see from a lot of venues, and it used to happen, especially a lot in the Northeast when we used to tour up there, is a lot of venues have like, hey man, we've got like an apartment above the venue y'all can use.
Yeah.
And that's like for any band, if you're having to stay in a hotel, especially nowadays, that's like $100 guarantee right there. Because it's like, you have to pay nothing. You can all have a place to sleep that's safe. Usually there's enough space to bring your gear. A lot of times, if
You
it's
can
a
all
bar
shower.
that opens during the day, you can just leave everything in the venue, lock it up, and come down the next morning, pull all your stuff out.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. Like, there's a couple places we're playing on this run in June where it's like, okay, there are places to stay attached to the shows, and it's
Yeah.
like, all right, cool.
So if you can get those kinds of like opportunities, then it makes it a little more cost effective.
Right.
It affects it doesn't affect your bottom line as much. But also, like, some venues give you the ability.
Miles the door. We're recording right now.
We're recording a
Kinda fucked now.
podcast.
Yeah, we're recording.
Yeah. It's right there on the porch. He's looking for the mosquito spray. He found it. Okay.
But like some of the venues we've played in some of these tours, like I remember it was in New Mexico. We played that Pokey Cevicheria place.
Yeah.
And that was cool because we got money. It was a guarantee. Plus they gave us a meal. And it wasn't like
meal.
a BS meal. Like, it was like, what do you want? How much do you want of it? Like, I remember getting back to the house and being like, whoa, this is like legit.
This was 2 meals worth of food.
Yeah, this was like awesome.
But also on the flip side of that was basically like a brewery gig where it's like most people did not even care. We were background music.
Oh yeah, totally,
Right.
100%.
So that's a big thing. You always got to play the gigs that pay well it's the weirdest thing about music. You play all these high paying gigs where no one cares that you're even there.
Yeah.
To be able to afford to play gigs where people care that you're there, but you make nothing.
Yeah, well, that's like our buddy in the March Divide. Like, he plays a ton of brewery shows, but it allows him to be able to play those little one-off spots around the country where it's not going to pay him diddly squat, but he's going to get in front of people that are going to appreciate it, and he'll probably move some
Sell a
product.
ton of
Yeah, move merch and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing too, is if you're going to tour, you got to move your merch. You got to be willing to sell some stuff.
Oh, yeah.
There is no shame in being like, hey, you like what you hear? Grab it on the way out. Like, you have got to do that. And if you have a problem doing that, then find someone in your group that does that, or you're going to have to end up paying somebody to be a merch person and do that.
It's good to have someone in your group who, while people are setting up their instruments and stuff, will set up merch.
Almost like someone who doesn't have to play an instrument at all.
It has nothing really to set up on stage. They could go do that.
Who could that be? She hates us so much. But that's the thing too, though, is like really and truly, Kim is really good about making sure she's there after the set's over.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. That's why he brought it up.
Oh, no, I was thinking you do, because I never go over there, but I always see you. The first thing you do is like you're off the stage over there.
So I normally lean over. It's like, hey, there's people at the merch table.
Oh, I don't hear that part. I'm just like, hey, she's helping out. She's doing her part, man. Again, it's like Kim. Also, like, she might not do it immediately, but she's always engaging when she's over there. She doesn't seem like she's hassled to be there.
Yeah.
I have played with bands and gone and seen bands where the people running the merch booth were the band and they were just pissed to be there. And it's like, well, I don't want to buy something from you if you're pissed off, buddy. Like, that's not a good look.
Yeah.
You know, you got to engage a little bit. You know, like, maybe don't put the antisocial guy behind the merch booth. I'm just thinking.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that you kind of lose, though, now. It makes it tough is with this touring, it's hard to bring someone dedicated. It used to be you'd bring a buddy who would help carry stuff and run merch or do something like that. You don't really have that ability anymore.
No.
Without adding a whole new person, which normally means you're going to have to get, you know, if you're staying in hotels, you got to get another room. It makes it more difficult to find people willing to let you crash at their place when it goes from even 3 to 4 people. It's like, well,
right, yeah.
we have a double bed and a couch. But then you're like, oh, there's a fourth person. Like, man, we don't really have space for. It's amazing how that extra person will just like
just ruins it. We're gonna rescind that invitation.
It's like, oh man, that's terrible. We ain't gonna mess with all that.
Well, and I think, you know, another thing to save money is we again, like we talked about earlier, like you hit the breakfast, like you get the continental breakfast, whatever you've got with your hotel, get whatever you can. Like, if you know, because if you can cut a meal off of your day, expense wise, that's going to save you money.
Yeah, that's huge. Also, we bring snacks.
We do.
We pre-buy snacks and bring them on the road with us.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to be like, hey man, I'm gonna go stop by. I mean, how many times we eat out of supermarkets?
Oh my gosh, dude.
Pre-made sandwiches where it's like, I can get a sandwich and a bag of chips for $4.
Hells yeah.
And it's like, you know, there's good inexpensive ways to get decent food.
Yes.
You know, you don't have to go to a restaurant. You don't have to go to a fast food place. You don't have to do anything crazy like that. You just do it. So one last little bit, because I know, man, we're approaching an hour, but I think we're going to cut out a lot of stuff.
I was even going to say with that food thing, like, I know bands who bring their Instant Pot on the road.
Oh yeah.
Like, they cook on the road. So
bands bring Instant Pot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not crazy.
It makes sense. Yeah, you could do that in any hotel room.
Yeah. There's a guy on TikTok who like shows you how to make all kinds of things in your hotel room. I don't think I'd eat them, but
oh god,
he like made smoked ribs one time, and I was like, I'm kind of intrigued. Like, okay, you know.
No, I mean, you know, staying. Like I say, real quick, how, you know, we've got this question before, like, how do we set up tours and things like that. I think we covered it kind of before, but it's a good thing. It's just the best way you can make touring work is to find friends in other towns. The best way to do that is when you have people that are acquaintances, try to help them find shows locally, and then never be afraid to call in that favor again.
Yeah.
And if you call in that favor and they blow you off, then don't ever help them again.
Right.
Because it really does come down. Don't feel ashamed about that. It's like, if you help someone and they're unwilling to do anything in return, you know, it's like this, you're not doing this for charity. I mean, you're doing it because you like people's music, but you need to grow everything together, man. Yeah. It really is one of those all ships rise. And if someone's not trying to add water to the level, dude, there are other people that will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's the thing is it's like you have to be open to helping as well as receiving help. Like, and I think that's hard for some people to understand is it's like, you know, you want to be independent, you want to be self-made or whatever. At the same time, like, there are people in other, you know, markets that have been there established. And if you can, you know, do something back and forth and help out, like, it's going to work out better for you in the long run. You know,
you got to embrace rejection too. It's so awesome to get a no as opposed to just never getting anything.
True. Like, it goes into the void.
So a good funny one about this tour, like, we're going out and we sent all these emails, didn't hear back from a lot of people. This was probably one of the more difficult tour bookings, especially around Minnesota and Illinois and stuff. Like, we've never really had issues up there before this year. But again, venues are closing. All the people you know are like, man, there's not really many places to play. Ended up coming together. But we had a night off, and I was like, you know, I'm big baseball people, so I was like, we'll go to a Twins game. We're like 6 weeks out. There's no show. We hadn't emailed anybody in 6 weeks, 2 months about a show. It's over. We'll go ahead and buy the tickets while they're cheap. Found like a good deal on some tickets. Go in, and And what happens last week? Yeah, man, we'd love to have you. We want to go ahead and confirm y'all for this show. And so John and Rebecca are having to do a 3-hour brewery gig alone because we're going to be at Target Field. So, but that's another thing too, man. But again, it's like a Thursday night, which actually is a pretty good night.
Yeah.
But you actually can get good shows. Like, you got to be willing Monday, Tuesday, find some things to do. There's not a lot. We found, hit up, like, if you look at open mics in towns, a lot of times they'll have featured artists.
Yeah.
And as the featured artist, they'll usually like pass a hat or something if they're from out of town. We've done that in Baltimore. We've done that in like places around the Midwest where it's good. And I guess it wasn't really, we did that in Union, Washington that time too, and had like a good night doing that as well.
Well, I think one of the things that you and I have talked about it, if you want to book a venue, look at their calendar. Look at what nights they're open, what night they have a comedy night. Don't ask for the night that's a comedy night.
Right.
You look like you're just throwing lines out there and you don't really care. Because if they feel like you've actually looked at their calendar, they're more apt to respond to you. And they may still tell you no, but you'll get a no. Or you might get, hey, we're not available that night, but hey, we have a buddy's venue down here. We'll put in a word for you there.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask venues if they get back to you of like, do they have any places that they know their local town better.
Yeah.
It's like, do I appreciate that? Do you know of any places that might be sympathetic to what we're doing?
Yeah.
And I've had that happen where it's like, dude, you just try to hit up these people. They would probably love to have you, and it's worked out. And a lot of times they're like, well, we don't have Thursday, but are you here the next night? Or are you here the night before? And then sometimes you haven't put together and you're like, well, we could route that way. Like that could work out because you want to have the nights that work. But yeah, it's huge to like, you want to get blown off by a venue forever. Like, hey, we want to come play on Wednesday. And you look and they have never had a show on a Wednesday night in the history of the venue.
Yeah.
And they're just like, like usually that's just where it's like block email address.
Yep.
And then you start noticing after that your emails don't get answered as much because you're probably falling in a spam folder because someone's like, and jackass report spam.
And it's not something that, it takes a ton of time or effort.
No, but if you're gonna go through the hassle of booking a tour, which it is a hassle, it's like asking someone out on a date.
It's work.
It is like asking 200 people out on a date at the same time.
It's like asking a girl out who's lesbian, and you're like, guess I should have asked, maybe done some research before I went and made an ass of myself like that. It's those kind of scenarios. It's like easily, like you could have navigated that a lot better.
Yeah, and a lot of times you look up the venues online, you see the stuff, you're like, yeah, this isn't a place for us.
Right.
So you don't take the chance of showing up in the middle of like nowhere, Iowa, and you're like, ooh, I'm in the middle of something that does not line up with my personal philosophies as being a human being at all.
Right. Oh, man.
And that can go any which direction. You just may end up at a place and you're like, oh no, I really do not want to be affiliated with the message of insert venue owner.
No kidding.
That can be really awkward.
And I mean, and again, that can go both ways. There's like all sorts of people, man. No matter what your affiliation is, there's a venue that stands in direct
opposition,
right, to what you believe in. So always look around and just to find places that seem safe. I mean, there's some places you start reading about and it's like, oh man, it was like a shooting there. Like, oh, this happened the week before. This happened the week before there. And you're like, maybe I don't need to be there.
Right. Maybe that's a sign from the universe that I should bypass this one.
Or even venues that look cool. You'll pull it up. It's like, all right, next Tuesday is our last night. And you don't want to be the jerk like, y'all have a date in 3 months. It's like, we're going out of business, sir.
Well, that's like I got asked to do a show with one of our buddies, man. And, we were setting it up, going to do it. And then he emails me a week later. He's like, never mind. The venue's closing this Sunday. That happens, and if you do have like a venue that you hit occasionally out of town, it isn't a bad idea to drop them a line every once in a while and just check on them. Like keep those communications open because that keeps you in their rotation of potential artists.
Yeah. And a lot of times, if you actually do get to know people, another thing that's great that we do, we've moved more technological, but keep a Google Doc or keep like a notebook where you write down the staff with like just a few descriptors of who they are, and then it's like you go back and, like we used to early play Ronnie's, like, oh, hey, Lindsay.
Yep.
And I mean, there was Wendy, the lady. I still remember the people from the Cove because I wrote down their name. I wrote down like what they look like, people they reminded me of in my normal day life. And it was just like, so when we went back, you remembered them. And then even if they didn't remember you, they'd kind of pretend to.
Yeah.
Because they'd be like, oh, dude, yeah, that guy remembered me. I don't want to be rude. It's like, oh, that's great. But then they would actually pay attention. And then when y'all were done, like, I really enjoyed that. And yeah, I'll let the owner know.
Yep.
Hey, man, talk about there are nights you just have nice, not a lot of people show up. But if the people who work there enjoyed it and are willing to go to bat for the owner and be like, yeah, there weren't a lot of people, man, if they were really good.
Yep.
Right. They're going to get you in front of the right people. They're going to make sure.
People do this. Always always be respectful and good to the staff of any place you play.
Yeah,
Throw out a
man.
t-shirt for free every once in a while. They're gonna freaking wear it
Yes.
at their bar. They're gonna rep you.
Dude, our friend from Fredonia, like she,
Yeah.
even when she's not working, she makes sure she comes through when we're playing our brewery shows there.
Because her name's Sam too. She's
Exactly, Sam's like Sam's, but that's really cool, and because we've
when
created
you have-
that friendship.
right. When you have a staff member who has to sit through shows, and like we've had that happen in other places where like people who work there, like, oh, I know y'all were coming through, so I came out, and it's like, wow, okay, like you don't have to be at work,
Thanks.
and you showed up to the bar you work at
On
or
your
the
night
brewery
off.
you work at to come see us play. It's like,
Thank you.
like, yeah, like I can't suck.
Right.
You may think I suck, but I don't. Somebody came to work on their night off. That's
But I think that's true. Like that's how you make touring work in this new reality that we have. You have to be willing to make those connections and maintain those connections, because we live in a world now where they're getting inundated with information all the time. And so if it's a physical, a real relationship, they're more apt to remember you, and they're more apt to, help you out when you call out. And I think that's where the real thing comes with touring now, is you're going to have to accept the fact that you're not going to make money probably. If you break even, that's a win,
Amen.
And you're making those connections, which that's all you can really rely on at this point. Because let's be honest, I think the days of like Facebook events being a way to get people, it doesn't work anymore.
no one even sees
No one
that.
sees them
No.
until after the event's
And-
over.
Yeah,
And-
2 days after they start showing up in your timeline.
No, and then Instagram that algorithm is all jacked to hell.
If you have any sort of text in any of your pictures, no one's ever going to see it.
Yeah.
Nope.
Because you can tell anytime we post anything that has any text, it's like you had one like out of the 1,000+ followers.
Exactly.
And it's like when you put up a picture, just like, here's me standing like in front of a gas station. It's like, oh man, like 120 likes. It's like,
What the hell? Where'd this
cool.
come from?
Thanks.
Yeah. So I think that's how you're going to make it touring, but like we said, you got to have a job.
Yeah.
Like as much as no one wants to
Unfortunately.
have a job, it sucks.
You really do. And I mean, I can go back again, like major label friends of mine, like, same deal. When they weren't on tour, they were driving cars for a car dealership.
Yep.
They were working at a guitar shop. They were working at a bar. They were doing this.
Oh yeah.
Trying to remember I remember playing with a band at Continental Club that just absolutely killed, and they were doing touring and stuff. Then we did a show at Momo's in Austin, and he was the door guy. And we're like, dude, what are you doing here? Oh, this is where I work. And it's like, cool, man. Like, most people you knew who were in bands had jobs.
Well, I want to say, I think Jeff Henson from Duel, before he started doing the home studio or the studio thing, he worked for, it's the company that basically in Austin that rents all the backline.
Okay, yeah.
For everybody, from anything that comes through. And so like, it was funny because the band he was in Meganaut at the time, and they never played any of the South by Southwest stuff. And I always thought it was so weird. It was the guitar player. I'm sorry, not Jeff, the other guitar player. But I thought it was so weird. And it was because he made more money doing his job, renting amps and running amps for that, than he would playing any showcases.
Yeah.
And so it was just a known thing. I can't play shows during that week. And so, yeah, like have a job that you can fall back on that's going to take care of the bills, man, because nothing's worse than being on the road worrying about a bill that's got to get paid.
Oh yeah, man. But yeah, so that's just kind of, our conversation on touring and what people have to go through and our take on it, our experience, the experience of people in our community. And we hope y'all got some good information out of it, man. As always, if you like the podcast, tell a friend, subscribe, get the word out, check out our band, check out other bands online. We do have a new record. We're going to go on tour. It helped. We sold a couple copies. And that's it, man. We're going to leave it here. That's just where the episode's going to end for once. No outro music, no nothing, no craziness. Just thank y'all for listening. We'll talk to y'all next time. Later.
Later.
Bye.